So the head officer jumps in and looks at the head of the prison and goes on and tells him this fictitious story. She points to me and turns to him and says, she was in her cell with tiny shorts and a bra on. Her belly was all exposed. And when I first saw it, I told her to cover up and wear a shirt. Don't wear that out. And when I came back to her cell, she was sitting there with the sports bra on and the tiny shorts on again. She then went on to say that I walked down to the office and started complaining and demanding to be allowed to wear a sports bra in my cell. And I had told her that you all are all comfortable and cool in here with the fan while I have to be hot in this cell. That was not the truth. That was not the truth. The number one thing about me, and everyone knew, was ever since I walked into that prison, I kept my voice down. I was friendly. I was nice. I always thanked everyone. When a prisoner would come by with food, I would say thank you or no thank you. When a prison guard told me something to do, I would do it. I would put my head down and do exactly what they told me to do. Or I would say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. So everything she was saying, she was trying to paint me as this American that's entitled and demanding. And I was never like that, never like that. At that point, I was sick. I had been sick for over a week, and it was a heat wave. And the only thing that I spoke up about was my health. All I kept saying was, please let me buy fresh drinking water. I have money to buy fresh drinking water. This water is giving me diarrhea. I cannot have any more diarrhea. I'm going to get to the point where I become critically ill. And no one was listening to me. That was the only thing that I opposed. Oh, and the second thing that I had stated was when they tried to cram a third prisoner in our cell, even though there were 10 open cells with 20 beds, they tried to stick a third prisoner in our cell and make her sleep on the floor with a prison that is infested with gigantic cockroaches that bite and carry bacteria and cause infections. All I said was, please don't let her sleep on the floor. So I spoke up. So there are only 2 times that I've spoken up, and it's always been related to health codes, and it's been about health and safety. And I've always been respectful when I've spoken to anyone. And she painted this story that I'm this entitled, full of herself American. And the head of the prison just would not listen to anything that I had to say. And I had been sick for over a week at this point when he's standing in my cell. None of the other prisoners were around. They sent them out to rec. And they're standing there screaming at me while I'm dehydrated with a throbbing headache. And I've been sick. I couldn't believe it. And it wasn't true. I had a camisole on. My stomach was not covered. My shorts were shorts that were given to me by the prison guards to wear in my cell, which is exactly what I was doing. I did not wear it outside of the cell because I knew that was against the rules. And I was sitting on my bed with the camisole on. And I knew if I got out of the bed, I had to wear a shirt with sleeves on that had been confirmed with me by a prison guard that past weekend. So she painted this story about me that was entirely not true. This head officer had claimed that I had snapped at her and the other officers when I was in the office. The reality is I was brought down to the head office to meet the nurse to get medication, Imodium, and to get electrolytes. And I was desperately trying to talk to the head officer to ask her to please let me wear a camisole while I'm sitting on the bed. The weekend officers who are above her had confirmed with me that that's allowed. And because I'm sick and overheated, please don't do this. That's all I was saying. And she changed the story on me. So basically, while he's screaming at me, I looked this head officer dead in the eyes. Dead in the eyes. I looked at her. And I was trying to figure out, what is your MO? Like, what are you doing right now? Why would you do that? You know, I've always been respectful as a prisoner, and I've always been following the rules. Why are you doing this? Like, that's what I'm thinking in my head as I'm just like looking at her knowingly. And her eyes were just blank. They were just blank. No emotion, no expression, no nothing. I did make a point, and I said to the head of the prison, I cannot drink the pipe water. I am sick. I have been sick for over a week. And I even got down on my knees to please get him to stop screaming at me and cursing me out. I tried to explain to him that I've been desperately trying to get fresh drinking water. And I got to the point where I said I'm going to reach out to the U.S. Embassy to try to get help. He didn't care. And he basically screamed at me, if I hear one more complaint about you, you are going straight to the hole. I kind of wonder what the politics was behind all this, because at this point, my case had been on the news for 2 or 3 days. It was on the morning news and it was on the evening news. My daughter and the abuser had been on the news. They had been pictured walking with the FBI. Their backs were to the camera and they were walking away. And this man's jacket that said FBI, my daughter, and then the abuser was on the other side of my daughter as they walked away on the news station. And this woman that had connections and some influence had come to the prison and visited with me this past week and said she was going to come back to see me. In addition to that, I was supposed to be meeting with my lawyer. So by putting me on lockdown, I wasn't going to be able to see this domestic violence advocate. I wasn't going to be able to contact or communicate with her. I wasn't going to be able to contact or communicate with anyone to let them know my lawyer needs to come and see me. There's been an incident. It was going to put me in a position where there was really nothing I could do. I would be cut off from everyone for a week while I'm stuck in my cell, not allowed to leave during rec time to make phone calls. The timing was just weird. And to attack me while I'm sick and I'm asking for some very basic needs, it was a form of torture. I was being tortured. Yeah. After the officers left, rec time ended, and my cellmate ran in and said, hey, give me one of your empty gallons of water. I just got told by the head officer that there's fresh rainwater now that we can use that is good to drink. It's not stinky. And I was like, but it hasn't rained in like 3 days. Why now is there fresh drinking water when I've been asking for clean water for the last 2 days?